Hey guys, Marcus here. Welcome to another episode of Design Bites and Coffee. Today we're getting into a really important topic, and that is how to find out what your personal style is. Super important. I guarantee you this video is not like any of the other videos that you've seen online, so stick around. Unless, of course, you don't have coffee yet, then what are you doing? Pause the video, go get some coffee, come back. Alright guys, to be straight, this is my third time filming this, and I just really want to hit the nail on the head since this is such an important topic. The whole reason why I'm making this video is because I just think all the other videos out there are inadequate on the topic. So what I've decided to do is to turn this into a three-part series. This video, part 1, will be a little bit of background just to understand exactly what styles are, so that you can figure out what your style is later. So part number 2 is figuring out your favorite mood and style and putting it into words, where step number 3 is figuring out the aspects of design that actually create those moods. So we have a really fun activity in episode 3 of this series. Stay tuned for that. But for right now, background, a little bit of a history lesson, super important prerequisite to figuring out what your style is. What is a style? To answer this question, I'm going to consult the Book of Styles. Yes, it's an actual book. I made it in college. So this is the Book of Styles. It's something I made in college. It's got a timeline right on the front. Super, super important. In fact, I'm going to make 3 points about this timeline here. It's got different styles when they were alive in the history, all the way ranging from 1880s all the way up to the 2000s, basically now. It also has a couple big events that were happening, like World War I, World War II, and the Civil Rights Movement, and those are super important. So, point number 1 about this timeline here. Think about travel, the exchange of ideas, communication from one human being to another. International travel was not common before the automobile because you actually had to walk or take horse and buggy there. It was a huge endeavor. So the ability to travel is super important. World War I was kind of a turning point. The automobile introduced in the early 1900s and then made common right after World War I. So if you notice all of these design styles, we have Art Nouveau, Chicago School, Modern Forerunners, American Arts and Crafts, all leading up to World War I, and they're developing independently. And then boom, World War I hits, the automobile is common, international travel is common. No longer are we developing design styles independently in all of our little areas. We're now talking amongst ourselves, traveling amongst ourselves, sharing ideas, and developing larger design styles that span a much larger region within reasonable travel. Now, there was still the problem of crossing the ocean to get from continent to continent, which is why I want to focus on World War II, cross-continental travel, where the boat, the cruise ship, and later on the airplane, the airliner starts to be more common, and then we get cross-continental travel where we can share ideas, making it even larger design styles spanning an even larger geological region. And then moving into today, where we have the early 2000s, we get the internet. So no longer do you actually have to physically travel to pass ideas along and talk about design styles. We can just do it instantly from the phone in our pocket. So design styles aren't developed independently like they used to be. So what does that mean for today? We're all in the same boat. We're all sharing ideas, and things are being developed more globally rather than regionally. So point number 2. The design styles were developed out of the social political events of their time. So I want to give you a couple examples of what I mean here. Second Industrial Revolution started mass production of things. The machines were pretty simple back then, so everything was manufactured with 90-degree edges, straight lines, straight pipes, that sort of thing. But because mass production made things a lot less expensive, craftsmen started losing their jobs in favor of the mass-produced items like furniture and whatnot. Now, directly after that, people did not like the status quo manufactured cookie cutter thing. So they developed a style which we now call Art Nouveau, that focuses on curved lines. So let's take a look at that. It was a desire to create a new style divorced from those of the past that expresses a modern and urbanized society, utilizing natural forms, lines that whiplash, and expressions, different things that machines can't do. They were favored because it took an artisan, a craftsman, to actually make these things. It was a direct rebuttal of the Second Industrial Revolution, and I love it. But the point here being, Art Nouveau was a direct result, even being a contrast to the Second Industrial Revolution. To hit the point home here, let's look at World War I, the very next world event on this timeline. World War I was catastrophic. So much death. Probably the first event since the bubonic plague where the death toll was measured in fractions of the population rather than round numbers. Now, just like the bubonic plague that sparked the Renaissance period, the World War I sparked a similar renaissance. It was people trying to start over, trying to get back to the basics, trying to find some spiritual harmony in all of it, some philosophical reason why everything happened, and then start again as humanity. Which is why directly after World War I, we have the Bauhaus and the De Stijl style. De Stijl. Eliminate the ornate and simplify everything. Focus on asymmetry, the abstract, primary colors only, maybe some grayscale, to achieve spiritual harmony through art and architecture. The design philosophy behind the Bauhaus: design should never include more than what is needed. Take an object in its simplest form and work to show off the simplicity of that form, paying close attention to what is not there, because less is more. Now, these sound just like styles that were developed out of a people who were sick and tired of death, who now realize the value of life. You have a bunch of 18 to 25-year-olds dying in a world war. They're going to start focusing on the more important things of life rather than collecting things, right? It's a direct result of World War I. So what's my point with point number 2? Let's look at the social political times now to figure out what is a design style that's being developed globally now. It's not history yet, so it's not written. We have social, political, and gender equality. That is the key thing going around the world right now. The neutrality, the you can't tell me, what's taboo, I make up my own morals, my own ethic code. That whole movement is what's going on now. And you can see that, right? We start to blur the lines between black and white. It's a no wonder that gray is so popular right now, right? Something that used to be taboo you couldn't do, mixing beige with gray, beige with gray. It looks normal now, but 10 to 15 years from now, when we've moved on social and politically, if we do, this will probably look out of style. Now, it's more of a fad than a style, and I'll get into that as point number 3. What's the difference between a fad and a style? Social and political things also create fads rather than styles. And now that we are operating globally in design styles because of the internet, we are at higher risk of fads. And fads are when things are overused, overdone, and people get tired of it. A lot of times they are color combinations, but they can also be material selections. So things that were overdone, like the earth tones in the 70s, we think of the hippie era, everything was getting back to nature. So earth tones were huge then. If you see a color palette of browns and rust and off-whites, then you're probably going to think of the 70s, right? That was a fad. And if you saw that today, you would say that's 70s, it's out of style. Fads can also be material selections. So if you think of the mid to late 90s, we had ferns and vines everywhere. Brass was running rampant and lots of wicker. So if you put all of those things into a space today, you're going to say, that looks 90s, that looks out of style. No, it was just overdone in the 90s and people got tired of it, so it became a fad, and now it's something that reminds you of the 90s. So what about today? What's the material selection that people are overdoing today? Well, take one look at HGTV and you'll have a pretty good hint. It's my belief that shiplap, white shiplap, and reclaimed wood will become a thing of the 2020s, 2010s. I think it'll be out of style eventually. Right now it looks fine because it's what everybody likes, but it does run the risk of going out of style, which is really, again, a fad. So be careful of those things if timelessness is what you're trying to achieve. If you only want it to look good for 10 to 15 years and then you don't mind redoing it again, go for it. If you want timelessness, you can pick one of these styles if you really fully develop it, or you can do what I'm trying to teach you to do right now, and that is to find your own personal style. We live in an age of ultra individualism. You are who you are. You want to celebrate who you are. So it only makes sense to me that you should have your own design style. And to do that, we have to actually create a style. So if you watch all the other YouTube videos that are out there that try to help you determine what style you are, chances are they'll give you 10 to 15 other different styles that are out there that might be popular during the time, and they'll try to force you into one of those categories. I'm not here to do that. I'm here to make you create your own individual style, because that is the time that we live in. You get to be an individual. Let's celebrate that. So stick around for part number 2 of this series, where I get to teach you how to create your own individual style. I break it down into 2 simple categories. It's going to be a lot of fun, guys. So to make sure you get part number 2, hit the subscribe button. You don't even have to get out of full screen. It'll be in the bottom right hand corner of your screen in the outro. Drop me a like if you like this video and learned something new. And until next time, this is Marcus, DesignIY. Go get some more coffee.